Hey, I'm Will, and welcome to Don't VLOOKUP, the podcast where we'll be seeking the leading experts in the field of commerce, and we're going to explore how they leverage data to make some critical business decisions. And today, we're really excited to have Zoe Kahn with us. She's the manager of CX and retention at Chomps, which is the better for you snack brand offering protein-based products. So, Zoe, thank you for joining us. And first off, it'd just be great to get a little more about your background and how you got into the role today.
Yeah, awesome. I just want to thank you, Will, for having me on. I'm really excited for you and Bar to be kicking this off because I don't see many like data-based podcasts around the marketing field, and I do feel like it's kind of like a scary realm because it could like be boring. But I know that you guys are gonna make it super fun and like interactive and like talk about how important data is. So just really happy to be here. A little bit about me. Yes, I do. I'm retention and CX at Chomps. So I'm like constantly looking at data and do agree that it's like so important to make data like back decisions. I learned that like early on in my career, actually in e-commerce, because I used to work for Ghost Lifestyle, the supplements and energy drinks, and a lot of times I would go to leadership and be like, we like, I worked just in customer experience back then, and I would see these customer complaints, and I would look at like one single customer complaint and like bring it to leadership and be like, we need to change this. This is a problem. And they would say, like, what's the data behind it? Like, how many times this is happening? How much money are we gaining, losing by like making these decisions? Like, what's the life? And it made me really think like, I need to figure out how to make data back decisions. And uh, we were talking a little bit earlier about like how a lot of companies or a lot of brands might not do that and how detrimental it could be. So I super agree on like the this podcast, and I'm excited for it. So um yeah, I guess that's a little bit about me. I'm in retention CX. I have a podcast in that talks about laughable moments in business too. So love the podcast world and excited to be here.
Yeah, just a disclaimer, Zoe is an inspiration for the podcast in a lot of
Oh,
ways. So also just great to have you on as you've done a great job in your own time doing all your podcasts. Even actually, it's pretty interesting. You start with Ghost, and I know we'll get to Chomps in a second. But in terms of Ghost, when you had that first set of experiences thinking about data, yeah, I know you said it's a little scary to think about data. What made it interesting to you after a while of actually seeing kind of the benefit of that, of leveraging that data?
yeah. Well, first of all, I was very frustrated because I knew again, early on in my career, I knew that like Shopify had all this data, like, but I had to be like exporting files and importing them here and putting up and had to learn how to VLOOKUP, which I hated learning.
Don't
um,
look up.
yeah, VLOOKUP. So I was like making all these spreadsheets and getting very frustrated because I'm like, I have to do like my job, but then like also back up my what I want to do with my job by all this data. And this was like before I even like knew that like data solutions were out there. So I was like, I don't know, cranking out extra hours just trying to like figure out how to like pull this data and compare it to whatever. But I did find it so interesting that like you can relate every single customer action to a data point of some sort, whether it's do they come back and repurchase, do they is like a lot of the things that I was looking at. I did like a deep dive into data on like returns processes, even like how much money, like is it worth it to provide a return label, is it worth it to even like uh, get returns back or just let the customer keep it. We did deep dives into like logistics of I this was a huge project for me of just figuring out like what's worth it, like claims, like lost package claims. How many times we're doing these lost package claims, and then like are we actually even getting money back? But and then how much are we spending on the internal team to like spend time doing these? And I realized like every single decision you're making is tied to like the customer at some point, and like, is it a net gain or a net loss? And like, just putting out all those data points and like figuring out like, is something worth it or not? And it does always have to be backed by data.
And I guess at what point, I mean, you're early on, even it could be a Ghost, it could be a Chomps, where do you see kind of the intuition kind of then morph into using data to kind of make those decisions? Or was there a bit of both really that was happening alongside and you kind of had to bring people along to that journey?
Yeah, at Ghost, I realized that as soon as I'm like a problem solver, and I hate watching businesses lose money. And I like on anything. Really, like even
Hmm.
like resources, efficiencies,
So you're not in
product.
venture. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, oh, no, I'm an adventure, but like I don't like seeing like, I don't know. It's probably the like, I don't know. I just like hate seeing inefficiencies. And I was like in the day-to-day like helping customers, like, and that's what I was like hired for. But then I was like realizing like there's so many gaps that you can only see on the customer level because you're seeing what like the feedback is from the customer. And I just started like compartmentalizing some of these like categories and being like, okay, what are these like, what from these customer like categories and complaints and feedback is like losing or gaining the most revenue, and like focusing on that and like figuring out the inefficiencies and efficiencies of it. And
Hmm.
there's again data behind each part of it, and like doing like a deep dive into like all of these like all the whole entire customer journey, um using data, figure out like, is it worth putting more time into it? Is it worth investing in like better help for it? Is it worth like creating a new hiring someone else to do this thing? It's so that's probably like where, when I started realizing that like things can change and I can make an impact in a business. I don't have to just like follow the set rules of like how I was taught to do it. That's when I like something clicked for me, because I think a lot of times when people are new in their career, they think that like what they're trained to do, that's just how it's done. And that's when it clicked for me. I was like, wait, I can actually like bring my own ideas, and like as long as it's backed by data, we can make changes, and my job can become easier and we're making more money.
I mean, that makes total sense. I think it really comes down to, it sounds like you're just testing a lot when it comes to how do you test an hypothesis and come back to that. It's pretty interesting. So even back to Chomps, even to your role today, how data driven is Chomps? Like what does that team even look like, and who are you typically working with on the team?
Yeah. So now my day to day is like more revenue focused, as far as like driving revenue and making um, database decisions based on what's going to move the revenue for like more sales. Where before it was like a little bit more like, before I was talking it more like operationally wise. So now I analyze a lot of like retention data. So it's like email, SMS, subscription, even our like loyalty program. And so that's like I'm on that side, but then also work close with our growth team that is acquisition. So like obviously everyone listening to this probably like understands like you acquire your customers, but then you want to maintain and retain them. So I'm always looking at like product journey of like well, I have a lot of examples, so you'll have to like
Yeah,
shut me up.
well, I'm gonna actually ask you that, like a very specific question around that, which is like, well, is there an example, like a transformational decision that you might have made, kind of leveraging data, and how do you kind of go about forming that hypothesis? What were the results of that? That'd be really interesting, just to pick like one prime example.
Yeah, I can give an example that's like very tangible, and then also like maybe some that I'm kind of like testing, that like in my head once I look at the data. Retention's
Well,
so,
you're gonna say it now, and then
yeah,
we're gonna see the results later
it's
on.
gonna have
We'll
to
we'll get we'll
happen.
kind of get a little disclosure after, just
Yeah,
see what
I'll have to
happened.
come back and let you guys know. Um,
Exactly.
Retention data is actually so frustrating because when you do something, you have to wait months to see like if you're retaining those customers. So you're looking at like historical data and something you're doing today, you might not really understand the effect on it until 3, 6, 9 months later.
That's actually, at one point on that, Thomas Keller, who was at Oats Overnight, was another kind of guest we talked to, and he said it really well, which was the decisions you make for subscribers today will actually impact them 6, 12 months down the line. So actually having that as like the framework in your mind of the decision you make today will impact them later on in such a detailed way, which is super
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, and it's really and I'm kind of an impatient person, so it's like drives me crazy. But I just like always have to have things in the funnel like to be testing so that I can like do something today, but I can look at the data back from like something I did 6 months ago. One of my like this might be more of like a rudimental like thing, but it was something I did at Chomps is when I first took over retention, I actually I'm gonna pause for a second. I think my internet. Am I back?
You're back.
Okay. I hope it does. I hope it can be
You're,
easily cut off. Okay. I remember my thought though. When I first took over retention at Chomps, Chomps was a little bit afraid of SMS marketing because it's a very intimate channel. And the list was very low. Like we weren't really collecting. Every once in a while they would do like a early access like email push to sign up for SMS. But like they weren't sending out texts, and I get it. It is kind of like a scary channel. You don't want to bother people. It is an intimate. You're getting people's phone numbers. But I like was seeing all like me being like a baby retention marketer. I had no idea what I was doing, but I was like, I feel like we should be doing more with SMS. So I had to test, and I was doing like things where like I was testing like taking a selfie and like sending that to one group and A/B testing that with our regular like typical like professional picture and telling people like I tested like different humanized versus like kind of your typical like marketing SMS, and just also compared like a conversion rate from email to SMS, and like was showing I kind of had to like tiptoe around and like show Chomps like it might be scary, but if we do it the right way, like people are going to love it. Like everyone, if someone's purchasing Chomps, it's because they love the brand. And oh no. Sorry.
it
I don't
might
know
be
what
scary, is what we have. Just as scary as the recording
Oh
of the
God, I
podcast.
hope it's not. I don't
Oh,
know what's
you're
been up with
fine.
my internet. It rained
Don't worry.
yesterday in San Diego, and I don't think that San Diego like does well with rain. So
Yeah, I think San Diego just hates data. They hate the data
San
podcasts.
Diego hates data.
So
Honestly,
yeah, of course.
that checks out. Everyone's so laid back here. They're like, whatever, let it run.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, you were saying, of course, it's a little scary. Basically, it is sometimes scary with text-based marketing. So, yeah, I actually am really interested even how you even went about setting it up. I'm probably one of the skeptics as well, especially at Recess. I remember we were so protective of the brand that the communication style and the copy was just so important in every email that we did. And we felt, hey, that might get a little bit out of control with SMS. So how did you even go about scheduling those tests? Like, how did you break out those types of customers you were even going to start communicating with? And how do you even convince people that is the right idea to do?
Yeah, so I A/B tested kind of like I went and I looked back at like what we had done in the past. And when I first started, we really were only sending out like texts every once in a while when we would have like a site-wide sale. So I A/B tested like sending out just like a hey guys, like we miss you, like how's it going? And like getting people to actually like understand that they can like respond to us and we will respond back. It was easy to do back then because we had a much smaller list and it was very cheap to do something like that. But I kind of like
Mhm.
gained the trust of like our community, like starting that way. And then instead of just doing those like only sale or SMSs, we've done like different things like communicating with our customers and teaching them that they can reach out to us for support or reach out to us if they have like any feedback. They can send us pictures, like creating it as like a funnel of just like communication rather than just a sales channel. Um And I A/B tested all these things, and I just put them in a chart, and I showed like the click-through rate when when we look like a human is through the roof, and then the click-through rate for like just a sale text is like not bad, but like look at you just like make them feel like they're talking to the brand because they are.
Hmm.
And then the next piece that I tested was actually adding the SMS to our pop-up, because before it was like all email collection. And to like ease into it, we did email first and then SMS. But then we realized that the SMS conversions from like getting that like 10% offer or whatever we're offering, it was so much higher than email. So then I flipped it and collected SMS first and then email. And like our welcome flow conversions just like went through the roof, and we were able to grow our SMS list. And like now SMS is almost like, even though we've only been doing this for about a year, like of like focusing on SMS and email, we're like almost matching some of the goals that we have from email. And then someone out there listening might be worried about cannibalizing the email list, but we kind of did some tests of just like looking at like things we've done in the past and like conversion rates there as far as like click-through rates and order conversions. And we don't think that it's a issue. It's kind of like, let's like wherever people want to shop, let's let them shop, and as long as they're buying chops.
Hmm. I mean, I have so many questions, and I'm just gonna only probably have a few. But in terms of even that first start, did you message as you, Zoe, as part of the brand, or was it on behalf of the brand? Like Chomps is the kind of that brand that's communicating back to that
Yeah.
customer.
When Chomps was smaller and like, I don't know, sub like 20 people, I used to do text messages from Zoe, and
Hmm.
maybe I should bring some of them back, but we have like copywriters now and like some of it. So um maybe I should this will inspire me to do another like redo my A/B tests and stuff and bring some of it back. But yeah, I would send like selfies of me like in my car being like, "Hey, it's Zoe. I'm going on a road trip, bringing my chomps. Like, just to let you guys know, it's the last day of our sale. Uh, like grab some
Hmm.
chops for your weekend." I used to do stuff like that, and it performed really well. It's a little bit harder now that like chomps is like getting bigger and there's so many like pieces, but I should bring some of it back.
I'll sign up for the list since I'm buying pretty regularly. But I guess the other question you kind of pointed to, you said a click-through rate and kind of order conversions. Like, what were the measures for success for that program?
Yeah, I should have come prepared with some like actual stats, but I
You
remember
should
it
have. Yeah, this is
because
a data podcast. That's exactly what you need.
I know I should have came with my data. There is a blog out there because I worked with Postscript, and I don't know how we feel about like shouting out
Oh yeah,
tech brands,
shout
but
whatever you want.
okay, yeah.
Absolutely. If you're happy
So
with them, shout it out.
I ended up doing a case study with Postscript because I was so like surprised by the numbers, and I redid these numbers like a million times because I was like, there's no way. But and I'll get you the case study so that you can like put it in the show
Yeah, we'll
notes.
we'll link it definitely.
Yeah, and it ended up being the conversion rate was like 500% higher than the email in our test period, which was like insane. And then I was able to show that to leadership and be like, okay, I know it's a scary channel, but like, look at these stats, look at this data. It's just like,
Hmm.
and now like even like the board of Chomps is like paying attention to like, what's the SMS list size at now? And like, we have it in our executive summaries. And because the numbers from it were just like so compelling, and just like goes to show like, maybe if like something feels scary, but like you hear that it's working and you're like scared of it, don't want to touch it, like maybe it is worth exploring. And that can go across like anything of where it's like new social media trends or new this, like it's worth exploring.
I think it's really interesting and like worthwhile to stress again that I know it sounds simple, but you kind of just connected an action, which is more like top of funnel. Hey, let's grow our SMS list. Like that is a true objective because we know it's going to convert
Mm-hmm.
on the back end. So I think what's really cool about what you did is obviously, again, a lot of steps to get there, but in the end, like your objectives are just very clear at this point, which is grow the SMS list because
Yeah.
you know what that conversion looks like.
Yeah.
And I think oftentimes what I've seen, I'm sure you've seen it, people overcomplicate a lot of, trying to optimize a lot of different levers, but it feels like you made the SMS lever kind of one of those key things. Has that changed at all I know you said the website, but even like how you try to acquire customers overall, because hey, let's just get them to sign up for this list. Eventually we'll get them through versus let's get them to buy right away. How has that changed like your perspective or your team's perspective on that?
Yeah. It's kind of we've been doing different for like if we're like staying on that topic of SMS and acquisition, we've realized for like it is worth it to collect their SMS even if they're not going to shop on the site that day, because it is just like so powerful to build that data and collect that data, because like if they don't shop today, they'll eventually get a text and we know they're interested in Chomps, and like maybe it is like they can't afford to do it today, so like next when we text them and we do have a site-wide sale, we'll acquire them as a customer because we've collected their data. And then we've also on that same front where like because the conversion rate for SMS is so much higher, even if they don't like get to that second screen of collecting their email, we'll still collect their email when they make a sale, because then they're putting in their email for other things. So
Absolutely.
yeah, and we've even done experiments where we're experimenting with like giving influencers their own SMS code, so that they can like, it gets a little tricky because you have to make sure that they put the consent messaging on there. Like consent for SMS is so annoying, but like you do have to follow it. But instead of getting influencers to say like buy right now, we've been experimenting saying like, hey, Chomp sometimes sells out of my favorite flavor, but if you sign up for our SMS list, they'll let you know when it comes back in stock, and they'll like remind you when there's sales going on. Hello. Darn it. Hello.
Hi, welcome back.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
You just got the 20-second infomercial, to fill the spot.
Are you
And funny
talking while
enough,
you're waiting for me?
no,
Oh,
I'm I'm staying like a statue. I'm here, just being patient.
that's
No, it also says the resolution will be higher, than the pixelated version I get when you freeze. So I think we're all set there anyway.
oh, good. Good.
Yeah, but yeah, I even think so I think we probably talked enough about SMS. I think there's again really interesting tie-in to kind of all the acquisition efforts you had, kind of the full funnel. My I know coming back to the earlier point, almost done, I promise, is what do you think are the biggest barriers for people actually using data? I know you said it was kind of scary again initially. Like, what do you think is that biggest barrier that you're seeing? Why people might not want to adopt
I
data decisions?
Yeah, I like feel this question really deep inside my soul, because I like just giving those examples of before, like just like digging into data is scary, because like if you're doing things manually, like there's so much room for error. And like sometimes you don't know where to pull this data from, or like what's the source of truth. So I think that's like people's biggest like barrier, is like not knowing how, and like not understanding that there's tools out there that will do it for you, or teams out there like Source Medium, like that will literally like walk you through something, or like you can tell them like, this is an idea I have, and like, but I need to like make sure that it makes sense with data. And then like having a team out there that will help you through that. And like, especially like young, scrappy e-commerce businesses, they don't have a whole like data analytics team. It's kind of up to each function to find that data. So I think that's the barrier, is like people not understanding how and not having the proper tools to do so.
Great point. Uh, and overall, I think the tooling part is important, but just as important for the people that actually know how to use the tools and actually want to
Yeah.
use the tools and adopt. Because what I've seen is data has such a wide surface area. It's just something where you can answer so many different questions. You have to have the people that know what questions to ask in the end. My last question for you is if there are three brands, this is a surprise question. It's not in the script or the show notes, but if there are three brands that you look up to and say, hey, I want to actually be like these brands, I really respect these brands, what are those three brands that you talk about?
Um, milk cookies, milk bar
Okay,
cookies.
that's a good one.
Yeah, they're like hype and innovation behind like I don't know that I could go on about them, but they're like subscription program I really look up to because it creates hype and it's like really exclusive.
Hmm.
And then really look up to Mini Katana for content. I love content driven businesses. They're just like so inspiring to me.
That goes back to
Um,
your gaming days too, a little
yeah,
bit.
going back like yeah, I love like the nerdy stuff. So that's Mini Katana. They'll admit it too, like pretty nerdy swords. Very cool. And then I think that Ghost will always be like an inspiration to me. I worked there for about 3 years, and like seeing the passion that the team has and like the founders have, and like how every little like detail matters, and the consistency across the brand that like really and like the hype that they're able to do. Anything that like just like feels more than just selling something is like an inspiration to me.
That's a really good point. I think authenticity is something that people do recognize, and I don't know, at least I felt it when I was at Recess. It's kind of easy to sell a product people actually want, and then trying to figure out the best ways to actually get it to them or kind of listen to what they're saying, the feedback, as you were saying before, is just really important because that opens up like the channels for them to actually buy the products and
Yep.
talk about with other people. So, well, Zoe, thank you again for your gracious time and all the insights. I know everyone else listening is going to take a lot out of this. So, if there, anyone can find you, in the future, where would you direct them to go look?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn and Twitter. I like the D2C Twitter. I keep telling Will like, "Come on, come to the dark side. Make some tweets." Um you can find me on
Not
Twitter.
likely anytime soon.
Yeah, it's just working on it. Um so LinkedIn and Twitter, it's just my name, ZoeKahn. You should be able to find me. And then if you want to find my podcast, it's called Let's Laugh About It podcast. And that's right now on Spotify and YouTube. So those are the places you can find.
Yeah, we'll dream to be on that someday. So
Yes, no, I would have loved to have you guys on.
great. Well, thanks again, Zoe, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Will.